So you're bored with the Overwatch League on, and you don't know what's gonna happen next. Well, don't you worry. The spirit of esports lives on. The Community Flash Ops Tournament is back. Welcome to the Holiday Showdown, and let me tell ya, it is beyond stacked. With Overwatch esports basically being on pause, a lot of pro players from the OWL and contender scene are interested in participating. And guess what? Some of these teams are ridiculous. We're talking dream team levels of crazy. There's no limitations on OWL and tier 2 talent per team. No restrictions, no salary, no franchises, nothing to worry about. More on some of the teams and some of the matches you can look forward to in a little bit. For now, here's a general overview and explanation of this tournament. So, it's going to be about 1 month from November 11th, tomorrow at the time of this video, to December 17th, and it's going to come in 2 phases. November, aka the start of tomorrow, will be the qualifiers, and December will be the finals. There's going to be some prize money on the line as well. I believe the total prize pool for every region is 50k, and there's going to be 3 separate regional tournaments: APAC, EMEA, aka EU, plus the Middle East and Africa, and North America. They're going to be played over the course of the next month, and for how these tournaments work, it'll be in 2 parts. First is the qualification, like I said, in November. EMEA in America works a bit different than APAC, so let me explain. In NA and EU, they'll play through a 10-round Swiss stage to reduce the hundreds of teams participating down to 8. The Swiss stage will be a gauntlet, single elimination, first to 3 every matchup, so there's no room for error. However, how I like to view it is, we're weeding out all of the good teams from the irrelevant ones. Once the top 8 is settled, both regions will go on to host online double elimination playoff brackets in December to decide the winners. In APAC, the process is a bit more complicated though, but I'd also like to add more exciting. So they're holding qualifiers in 3 separate places to get to the main event: Korea, Japan, and Southeast Asia, with the main goal being to have 3 Korean teams, 2 Japanese teams, and 1 Southeast Asian team participate in a group stage playoff in Korea offline on LAN. They're going to the WDG Esports Studio in Seoul for a live event, and knowing how hard Korean production goes, it'll be great. So yeah, all 3 of these regions will host their own separate group qualifiers, but unlike NA and EU, it'll come through separate steps here in Asia. It's a pretty big gauntlet. Phase 1 is going to be a 2-day group round robin. Afterwards, a 2-day single elimination bracket stage from November 18th through 19th after the initial preliminaries. And once we get through all that, it whittles down to all 3 regions doing an 8-team double elimination bracket starting November 22nd. And again, the top 3 in Korea from that bracket will advance, plus the top 2 in Japan and the top 1 in SEA. They will all go on to the finals in Seoul, live in person this December. And let me tell ya, the stuff going on in Korea is gonna be crazy. There are some ridiculous teams participating, but only 3 of them will move on. I really hope that we have a chance to watch some of these games in the qualifiers because god, it is gonna be fun. That begs the question though, how do we watch? Well, during the qualifiers, it's hard to say. There's been no word on official broadcast for this section of the tournament. There's a good possibility that here in the early stages, if we want to watch games, we're going to have to depend on POV streams from specific players if they're even willing / allowed to stream those things to begin with. Afterwards, in the actual finals, it'll be chill. There's most definitely going to be official dedicated broadcast for all 3 regions, and there's going to be commentary and whatnot, but as of right now, we don't know what's going to happen. For both the finals and the qualifiers, I would keep a close eye on all of the main broadcast channels you can think of, but I'm assuming again, the main stuff will come later when we get to the finals. Most likely on the Play Overwatch and/or Overwatch Contenders channels if I had to give you an educated guess. For the initial qualifiers, I would keep a sharp eye on Twitch for those player POVs. I'm assuming we'll get to see that. I believe we were able to in the last Flash Ops tournament, so just keep an eye out. We can only hope we get to witness some of this entertainment because, oh my god, there are some serious bangers in the works. With how stacked some of these rosters are, we need some kind of gameplay to get us by before the main event. If I find out anything after this video airs on information, I'll leave links in the description. Enough explaining though. Time for the juicy part. The participants. Every region is fun in their own right, they all have some very stacked teams, and you might just learn about some new players on the rise, but we have to prioritize Korea. It's a bloodbath, y'all. Of the hundreds of teams participating, a select few are stacked beyond your wildest dreams. I'm talking Overwatch League dream teams. There's about 9 or so rosters that really pop out in terms of familiarity and power, and 3 certainly stand out not only as fan favorites, but favorites to take it all home. Isohan, Hamster, and the Smurfs are the 3 teams that really go on the radar, and my personal favorite is the Smurfs. They're rocking a team of Smurf, Prophet, Birdring, Violet, and Izayaki, plus Krusty and Ants as their coaches. Are you kidding me? That is literally an OWL super team. Each individual is an all-time great on their respective roles. The skill is obviously apparent, but there's just so much going on here in terms of appeal. Prophet and Birdring, the OG London Spitfire DPS line, reunited. Prophet and Smurf back together. Violet and Smurf too. I mean, there's just so many cool connections within this small roster. I don't think you could make an easier team to root for if you tried. But somehow, even with a roster of this scale, they may not even be the favorites, cause oh my god, Hamster is terrifying. Ever wonder what would happen if Proper had a real team around him? Well, wonder no longer. How about Proper lining up next to Stalker at DPS with Fearless, Hanbin, Fielder, and Chio? That is literally an OWL dream team from the current season, something you'd make in a fantasy world. Proper wants to get back to his winning ways, and he's joined a group that is pretty tired of failing themselves. This team is not going to go down easily. It's pretty much a lot of the most elite talent in the world from top to bottom. But you know, the competition is tough. They're Smurfs, but also a team like Isohan might just step out in front of them. How about 3 members of the Florida Mayhem Championship team, plus Pelican and Vigilante? That's disgusting. I mean, come on, bro. This genuinely might be the strongest DPS line in the entire event. It's the Outlaws DPS line from 2022. Pelican is still an absolute monster. Merit literally just won Grand Finals MVP in the Overwatch League. Someone's the best tank player on the planet. Chorong still doesn't get enough love to this day. And Vigilante finally gets a chance to shine on a real team. The Smurfs and Hamster are going to get a lot of attention. Their rosters are just visually appealing, super likable for the fans, but Isohan genuinely might be the favorites to win the entire thing. They might not have as much glamour at some positions, but they have a lot of the most elite talent in the game that just won the league, so you can never sleep on them, and they're pretty much guaranteed to finish in that top 3. Those are what I'd consider to be the favorites, but here's a look at some other noteworthy rosters where you probably recognize a lot of the names. One that really sticks out here is Team 815. A squad of Decay, Choisewan, Kellen, MCD, Faith, and Develop is pretty decent. Not necessarily a world stopper, but a pretty cool team. Kellen played pretty well for NYXL this year, and Decay, we know what he's capable of, but most importantly, we get to see Choisewan back in action. We haven't seen him since the whole Charge debacle, he's finally free from Charge jail, and he gets to play on a pretty decent team. Him and Decay will be a lethal DPS duo. Another team that stands out is O2 High School. They're basically just a whole O2 Blast reunion squad, a bunch of different amazing players that have played for that franchise the last couple of seasons. You'll notice a lot of Shock players from 2023, but they're also rocking guys like Babel and Bliss, and don't forget about Viper. He was really good on Shanghai this year, and being on a team with more support and in a system that he's comfortable in could really see him thrive, especially after all the growth that he showed as a player. O2 High School is deep, They've got good teamwork, and I'm sure they want to get back out there and resume their winning ways. Speaking of resuming their winning ways, how about Runaway making their grand return? One of Overwatch's most historic franchises makes its grand return after being dead for what, like a couple of years now? Hisu, Yaki, Mag, Lee Jae-gun, and Gangnam Jin. That is a team that I haven't seen in ages. These boys used to dominate the Korean contender scene pre-2020. This is a historic team. Hisu and Yaki did some work. Mag, back when he was a tank on the rise. I mean, Lee Jae-gun and Gangnam Jin were one of the best backlines in the world back in the day. Gangnam Jin's finally not in main support jail anymore. God bless. This team is pretty sick and pretty easy to root for as well. Now, obviously, a bunch of their players aren't what they used to be anymore, so it's going to be an uphill battle, but just seeing Runaway make their return after all these years is really cool. Aside from that, you got a couple of contenders teams like Sin Priza and Poker Face. You'll recognize a lot of people out there like Valentine, Finale, Bellows, Ria's making a comeback again, Milguru, our boy. There's a lot of fun players entering this tournament. Even Knife is going to get another opportunity, as you can see on Zero. He's teaming up with his boys again, a couple of the Vegas Eternal boys. I'm loving this setup. That's 9 really awesome teams with a bunch of fun names all competing against one another, and there's probably some other ones out there with people who might be signing up late that we didn't see that also are on this Liquipedia page. This tournament in Korea is going to be awesome, and sadly, not all of them can make it through. A bunch of them are going to eliminate each other in the early stages of this thing. We may not even see all of these guys make that knockout come the end of November. But even so, it's going to be sick seeing a bunch of these guys be on a collision course with each other. We're going to see some engaging gameplay at the highest level possible. So many Overwatch League pros and contenders players clashing. So many all-time greats. So many fan favorites. Korea is beyond loaded, and they are without a doubt the place that you want to be watching over the next month or so. There is no better place to watch top-level Overwatch than right here. As for how I foresee Korea going, well, like I mentioned previously, I kind of expect isohan, Hamster, and the Smurfs to lead the way, all to a top 3 finish. The order in which it happens, I'm not too sure. I'm going to go with isohan as number 1, Hamster number 2, and Smurfs ending up as the number 3 seed, heading into the December tournament. But you never know. One of these teams could end up falling apart. Hamster have a lot of players who have choked recently in big games. Maybe they'll let us down again. The Smurfs, they're really awesome, but they have a bunch of old guys now. Maybe they could choke to one of these upcoming newcomers that are hungry to prove themselves. It's going to be really fun to watch this region. For the sake of time and because they're just generally less known regions, I'm not going to go over Japan and Southeast Asia in detail. There's only a couple of teams from each that really stand out anyway, so instead we'll move on over to North America. In my eyes, the 2 juggernauts definitely have to be Timeless and Primus Tornado, aka American Tornado, like 4.0 at this point. So, Timeless, I think, is a really cool team, for the simple fact that we have Hawk and Sugar Free reuniting on the same team, and then they have Vega and RuPaul as their backline, with Seeker playing DPS. They have a lot of great players from all sorts of different teams. Seeker gets to be on a better team than he was on with LA Valiant. Hawk gets more starting time. He looked good on Atlanta Reign when he actually got to play. We know what Sugar Free can do. We know what RuPaul can do. This team has what it takes to most certainly go all the way. If they intend to make it through though, Primus Tornado is likely to be in their way as an obstacle. This is essentially the early stages of this year's Toronto Defiant, plus Cal and Mikey, and yes, Reiner. Reiner is making his grand return to professional Overwatch. I don't know how much he's going to play, but yes, he is on this team. They're deep, they've got synergy, this team knows what they're doing. Although some people might argue, because they embody the spirit of Toronto Defiant, and this roster failed miserably before they got disassembled anyway this year, that they probably will find a way to choke this one as well. I'm of the belief that they have a much better chance of surviving and getting to the final and or winning it, just because the level of competition will not be Overwatch League level. But then again, because they do embody that spirit, maybe I'm overthinking things. Maybe I'm giving them too much faith. But still, Pretty awesome roster either way. You got Dope Gaming, who have Iron, Nero making a comeback, Rack Attack, our boy, King as well. You've got Wisp, who's been a pretty solid NA Contenders team for a while, rocking the likes of Rocket and Squid and Chopper, but also CJ, Liar, and Boat. Wisp is low-key stacked, and they might even make a dark horse run to the finals. I genuinely do believe that. And who knows, there's probably so many other teams and players that you could look forward to watching that I don't even know of yet, because again, it's really hard to know who is who and who's actually competing and who's not. But if you want a full list, I definitely recommend checking out the website. I'll leave a link in the description. There's over 350 teams signed up right now, so there's a lot to look at and a bunch of new faces to potentially be looking forward to. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the top two in all likelihood is going to be Timeless plus Primus Tornado. It's up to you to decide who you think is going to finish first and second, but I'm going to go on a limb and say that Timeless takes this tournament home. Maybe they're not quite as well-rounded compared to Primus Tornado, but again, the Toronto Defiant energy resides within those guys, and Timeless have some bona fide superstar talent. And then second, yeah, definitely gotta be Primus Tornado. They usually dominate events like this. It should be like the times of old for them, where they basically cruise through either to first or second, and the result that Timeless ends up being really good. This is where these guys thrive. In Overwatch League, they didn't quite work out, but NA, and more so of like a contenders-ish situation, we know these guys are going to have the utmost confidence. And then just to round it out, I'm going to say that third place goes to Wisp. I've really liked their roster for a long time. Now they're adding in CJ and Liar, the Valiant support line. I think they've got a lot of the pieces needed to potentially make a dark horse run and even scare some of the top teams. But unfortunately, NA might actually be the most boring region on paper with the least amount of talent, because I actually think EU is rocking some more interesting rosters overall. Unfortunately, I think that first place is basically already settled, for the simple fact that alexyOWL is a thing. And no, this is not the typical alexyOWL with a bunch of contenders players. This is a superstar EU Overwatch League team, headed by Coach Christopher of the London Spitfire. They have Kevster, Backbone, Hottie, Psycho, Skyrippa, Shockwave, and Funny Astro. A large handful of the best EU players in the world are all on this team. This is a absolute stud super team that should have no problem claiming the throne. Just having Kevster alone is not even fair. He's basically the best player EU has to offer, an absolute god gamer DPS player, but then you're pairing him up with so many awesome players, many of which already have synergy with one another. There's limitless strats and potential on what this team can run. So yeah, alexyOWL stocks to the moon. They're the absolute favorites to win this thing, although it's definitely not totally set in stone. Anything can happen, especially if the meta doesn't go the way that they'd prefer with Hottie there. And there are some other really likable teams to look out for, some people that are very easy to cheer for. Another EU classic, Team Peps, is going to be there. Ben Best and FD God from Team France will be there. Avo as well. Naga, Pack. This team's pretty solid. Usually you'd argue that a team like this is more than good enough to get top 2, but this go around, I'm not too sure. There's a lot of stacked EU teams, like SR Peak Check, for example. You probably know them from the most recent EU contender season. They've got a lot of amazing players. Vestola and Sauna just recently dominated for Team Finland. They're participating. You got Gala from Team Spain. I like this SR Peak Check team a lot, and I would not be surprised if they manage to get to the finals and even take a map off of alexyOWL. Then there's a couple of other teams that are somewhat interesting, not quite as stacked, but they still have some fan favorites. You got a team with Onigod and Don, they're reuniting. You got Karandop on that team. RC 2018 has Seal, don't know if I'm saying that right, plus Cloud from Team Finland as well. For the Necros fans out there, yeah, his EU Contenders team will also be participating. We'll see how the Genji god himself can do against some of EU's top talent. Unfortunately, though, again, it seems like it's pretty obvious who the winner will be. In terms of my predictions, I without a doubt have ex-Oblivione taking this home. Just too many great players on one squad to ignore. They should just cruise through every single opponent like they're nothing. And in second, I'm going to pick SR Peak Check. They looked really good recently in EU Contenders. A bunch of their guys, you know, they're from Team Finland. They just put on a great performance. Vestola and Son are on the top of their games. I really like Gala as a support. This team's not to be trifled with, and I think they're going to make a really solid run at this thing. Third place could be anyone's game. I think two of the favorites in all likelihood are going to be Peps and Aw Yeah. But I'm going to say Aw Yeah gets third place. Why not? They've gotten pretty close in EU Contenders the last couple of seasons. They put up some good results with some solid records. Feels like they're overdue for a good tournament run, and why not now when everybody's watching, you know? I could see them getting top 3, top 4. They've gotten close a lot of other times, so why not? Outside of the number 1 team, there could be a lot of really fun matches that take place in EU, and I think they're going to serve a reminder here as to why this region should not be underestimated and why they could even be on the rise. The Overwatch League is on hold, and so is Contenders, so this is pretty much all we have to look forward to here in the short-term future. So let's go out there and seriously enjoy ourselves. It's a new era in Overwatch esports, and I look forward to seeing how it unfolds. We can only pray up above to the Overwatch gods that there's going to be ways to watch these qualifying matches. If not, we'll see these guys in December for sure, so don't worry. There's going to be broadcast, I can guarantee that. For a lot of the stuff, we're kind of on our own, trying our best to research and share stuff with the community, so if you know anything about the broadcast, definitely share it down in the comments below. And of course, make sure to let me know what you think of this upcoming tournament for all 3 regions as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on who you're looking forward to seeing and who you think takes this thing. And also, I'd appreciate it if you could give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new, if you want more Overwatch esports content just like this. I've been ATP, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.